Hello and welcome. My name is Alan, and today we are talking about anti Semitism, Zionism, and the March for Israel rally and how it was poorly done. First, let's start off with some definitions. Anti Semitism is being anti the Jewish people. The word actually comes from being against those who are of the Semitic language. So, yeah. Um, part. Okay, anti-Semitism, also spelled out anti-Semitism, or anti-Semitism, slightly different spelling, with the S capitalized, is hostility to, prejudice towards, or discrimination against Jews. The sentiment is a form of racism, and a person who harbors it is called an anti-Semite. Again, the idea of Semite being someone who was of who's are of the Semitic peoples or the Semitic languages, which I believe was a family of languages. So, if I remember correctly, I didn't pull up as many links as I wanted to, but yeah. Family of Semitic The Semitic language consists of dozens of distinct languages and modern day dialects, but the major Semitic languages are Arabic, Amharic, spoken in Ethiopia, Tigrinya, spoken in Ethiopia and Eritrea, Hebrew, that's the language spoken by Jewish peoples, Tigray, spoken in Sudan, Aramaic, spoken in Lebanon, Syria, Israel, Iraq, and Iran, and Maltese. So yes, very Eastern Africa and the Middle East. Northeast Africa. So yeah. But that's where the word itself stems from. Anti-Semitism, it's against, and it's mainly focused on the idea of being against Jewish people. And like it says, it is a form of racism. So yeah, you are someone who is against the Jewish people as a race and probably as a religion. So, we often get a lot of the racial tropes through anti-Semitism. Their want of money, everything like that. Yeah. The origin of anti-Semitic is found in responses. The compound anti-Semitism appeared to have been used by Steinschneider, who challenged Renan to account for his anti-Semitic prejudices his derogation of the Semites as a race. Abner Falk similarly writes the German word Antisemitisch was first used in 1860 by the Austrian Jewish scholar Moritz Steinschneider. In the phrase Antisemitisch Vorurteil, anti-Semitic prejudices. Steinschneider used this phrase to characterize the French philosopher Ernest Renan's false ideas about how the Semitic races were inferior to the Aryan races. A lot of your Aryan races are often your Jewish peoples. Not Jewish, German peoples and stuff. You know, yeah, Proto-Indo-Europeans. So, often you hear Aryan race, you hear it in relation to World War II, Nazi Germany. So, yeah. And you can see it was first used in 1860 when talking about this. These ideas would stay around for a while. Anti-Semitism, Aryan race, power, all this ideology would stay there because Hitler would be a soldier in World War I, but would, following World War I, become someone of power who by the 1930s controlled Germany and started, pushing for a stronger Germany and everything. And one of the things he used was anti-Semitism. So he would often blame Jewish peoples. Now, of course, we know what that eventually led to, the Holocaust, concentration camps, and so on. Now, we can understand anti-Semitism as being against Jewish peoples. Now, we want to look at Zionism. This, many people equate as, if you're against Zionism, you're against the Jewish people. No, not really. Zionism, derived from the word Zion, is a nationalist movement that emerged in the 19th century to enable the establishment of a homeland for Jewish people in Palestine, a region roughly corresponding to the land of Israel in Jewish tradition. So, yeah, it's to reform the land of Israel. Following the establishment of Israel, Zionism became an ideology that supports the development and protection of the state of Israel. Zionism initially emerged in Central and Eastern Europe as a national revival movement in the late 19th century, both in reaction to newer waves of anti-Semitism and as a consequence of Haskalah, or Jewish enlightenment. Soon after this, most leaders of the movement associated the main goal of creating the desired homeland in Palestine then an area controlled by the Ottoman Empire. Yeah, your Middle East and everything was one nation before World War One, the Ottoman Empire. They were all under one banner. But the Ottoman Empire allowed a lot of freedom. It is just everybody was under the one main banner. This process was seen by the Zionist movement as an ingathering of exiles, the kibbutz galuyot, or galuyot, an effort to put a stop to the exoduses and persecutions that have marked Jewish history by bringing the Jewish people back to their historic homeland. From 1897 to 1948, the primary goal of the Zionist movement was to establish the basis for a Jewish homeland in Palestine and thereafter to consolidate it in a unique variation of the principle of self-determination. The Lovers of Zion united in 1884, and in 1897 the first Zionist Congress was organized. In the late 19th and early 20th century, a large number of Jews immigrated to first Ottoman and later Mandatory Palestine. And at the same time, diplomatic attempts were made to gain worldwide recognition and support. Since the establishment of the State of Israel in 1948, Zionism has continued primarily to advocate on behalf of Israel and to address threats to its continued existence and security. Zionism has never been a uniform movement. Its leaders, parties, and ideologies frequently diverged from one another. Compromises and concessions were made in order to achieve a shared cultural and political objective as a result of the growing anti-Semitism and yearning to return to the ancestral country. A variety of types of Zionism have emerged, including political Zionism, liberal Zionism, labor Zionism, revisionist Zionism, cultural Zionism, and religious Zionism. Advocates of Zionism view it as a national liberation movement for the repatriation of an indigenous people which were subject to the persecution and share a national identity through national consciousness to the homeland of their ancestors, as noted in ancient history. Critics of Zionism view it as a colonialist, racist, or exceptionalist ideology or movement through settler colonialism, which, yes, that is what it has become. The term Zionism is derived from the word Zion, a hill in Jerusalem widely symbolizing the land of Israel. Now, what we see is with Zionism, they're slowly trying to push other cultures and peoples out. Even though the Palestinians have lived there for centuries, peacefully. We've even got definition from Britannica, Encyclopedia Britannica. But now, let's get into this. Debunking the myth that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitic. We've also got from the Jewish Voice for Peace, Antisemitism, Anti-Zionism, and dangerous conflations. Anti-Semitism. It is a grave, serious, and totally incompatible with the movements of the collective liberation, and we stand against it in any form. Anti-Semitism is discrimination, targeting violence, and dehumanizing stereotypes directed at Jews because they are Jewish. In the past decade alone, some examples of the horrifying white nationalist anti-Semitic violence we have witnessed include the murder of the 11 congregants of the Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh in 2018, synagogue shootings at a Shabbat synagogue in Poway, California in 2019, Nazi symbols at the January 6, 2021 U.S. Capitol insurrection, anti-Semitic hate groups and rallies, and the desecration of cemeteries. We have also seen the use of Jewish stereotypes as conspiracy theories as part of racist ideologies. Visibly observant Jews have been especially harassed and harmed. We understand anti-Semitism as historically situated amidst interrelated traditions and conditions and struggles. That's why we fight anti-Semitism within and as part of broader struggles against oppression and a collective liberation. For instance, white nationalist violence has been on the rise in the U.S., fueled by the anti-immigrant and racist manifestos, sentiments, and conspiracy theories such as the Great Replacement theory. Jews are among the targets of white nationalist violence, along with black people, immigrants, Muslims, and trans and queer people, among others. Our safety is bound together with the safety of all people, and none of us are free if we aren't all free. And attacking Jewish individuals or communal spaces for being Jewish or blaming the Jewish people for the actions of the Israeli government is anti-Semitic and unacceptable, and flatly contrary to the values of our movement. Our movement for justice in Palestine stands firm as an anti-racist movement, which of course includes opposing all acts of anti-Semitism. Now, that goes, examples being such as when Marjorie Taylor Greene talked about California wildfires being set by Jewish space lasers. Kanye, when honestly he was probably off his meds, went on very anti-Semitic tirades. Yeah. And remember the Charlottesville marches with the frat bros with tiki torches chanting, "Jews will not replace us"? Again, another example of anti-Semitism. So yes, anti-Semitism does exist. However, let's keep reading here. What is anti-Zionism? Being an anti-Zionist means opposing the political ideology of Zionism, which resulted in the expulsion of 750,000 indigenous Palestinians from their lands and homes. It means standing against the creation of a nation state with exclusive rights for Jews above others on the land. Anti-Zionism supports liberation and justice for the Palestinian people, including the right to return their homes and land. Anti-Zionists believe in the future where all people on the land live in freedom, safety, and equality. Zionism suggests Jews require a supremacist nation state to answer the real question of Jewish safety. We believe that everywhere in the world Jews belong and should be safe. Real safety does not grow from guns, checkpoints, walls, and a police state. True safety is built through forging real solidarity with all those fighting for a more liberated world. So yeah. I think the beginning ideologies of Zionism to give them a homeland was fine, but it shouldn't be an exclusivity. You shouldn't push others out. And that's what it has become. And that's why I am now an anti-Zionist person. And again, there's a difference between anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. There is a big, big difference. Anti-Zionism believes the Palestinian people have as much right to live there as the Jewish people. You can live together in peace. Groups like Hamas form when people are treated unfairly. Militant groups like that form often when the peoples are treated unjustly and improperly. You have tried to force all these people into this little strip of land that's only a few miles big. Ban them from being able to really fish at their free will. Devastate their ability to maintain power, have clean water. Honestly, again, you all are very close to doing to them what Hitler did to you. Think about it. Why it is dangerous to confuse anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism. At a time when white supremacists and white nationalists take advantage of this moment to sow confusion and promote anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and racism, misstating that anti-Semitism is harms all. Misstating what anti-Semitism is harms all of our work for justice and endangers our communities. Opposition to the political movement of Zionism and or the policies of the state of Israel is no different from criticism of any other political ideology or policies of any other nation state. such as the settler colonialism, imperialism, and white supremacy at the foundation of the United States. But the Israeli government, U.S. government, and anti-Palestinian organizations run concerted campaigns to redefine and mistake the meaning of anti-Semitism, aiming to falsely conflate it with criticisms of Israel or Zionism. They do this so the Israeli government can avoid accountability for its policies and actions that violate Palestinian human rights. Conflating anti-Semitism with opposition to the Israeli government's policies or ideology is especially dangerous right now. Supporters of Palestinian rights are losing their jobs, being doxxed and harassed online, and being attacked physically, and facing congressional censure for trying to save lives. In fact, the agenda of white nationalists, war profiteers, and anti-Palestinian organizations has nothing to do with protecting Jewish people and all to do with harming our intersectional movements for justice. Warmongers try to make it hard, but it's actually really clear and simple. Fighting for Palestinian freedom and against anti-Semitism are intertwined. We are deeply committed to both. But, I mean, article says it clear as a bell. And this is for the Jewish voice of peace. Like I said, both can live in peace. But there is such a hard line right-wing government in Israel right now who only sees we should have the right to a state that is only Jewish peoples. And only what they consider Jewish peoples. There's some people of different nationalities, different ethnicities, although they are Jewish, they aren't treated as fellow Jewish peoples because the state doesn't necessarily see them as such. Modern Zionism is a racist ideology. It is a terrible ideology. It is a devastating ideology. And it should be stopped. Period. There is no discussion on this. And again, we have an article by The Guardian who makes this point. You know, they debunk the myth that anti-Zionism is anti-Semitic. All over the world, it is an alarming time to be Jewish, but conflating anti-Zionism with Jew hatred is a tragic mistake. So yeah. We are setting the background and everything here. Now, let's talk about this March for Israel, which seemed to back the murder and displacement of Palestinians. Because, let's speak first with, Schumer showing up at this march with people like Mike Johnson, who has been anti-Semitic, Pastor John Hagee, who wants a Israel of the Jewish design. Actually, in truth, he wants it of the Zionist design, so that they can bring about, the rapture and everything, because that's what they believe. So, essentially, he's praying for ethnic cleansing and having his followers pray for ethnic cleansing. But let's talk about Schumer here, who showed up with him. Dude, you are on the wrong side of history on this thing. And we've got other articles of Hagee. He says, an Israel-Palestinian peace deal will be the work of the Antichrist. So, he says it right here. We do not want a peace deal between Israel and Palestine because we believe it'll prevent the rapture and the end of the world and our reward. This is a horrible human being. Horrible human being. Doesn't mean he should be attacked. But he needs to understand what he is pushing is a horrible ideology. Yeah, March for Israel speaker Pastor Hagee once said God sent Hitler to help the Jews reach the promised land so they could be, essentially saying the Holocaust, pushing them out of Europe was a way to help establish Israel so they could make it a purebred Israel. Here's from Haaretz. John Hagee is a Muslim-hating, anti-Semitic, annexationist extremist. He's no friend of Israel. Yet, we have had Bibi Netanyahu show up on his shows, speaking in English biblical passages that would help back him in his push to get Israel as a nationalist single nation. Real friends of Israel should steer clear of hate preacher and CUFI head John Hagee's blood-soaked annexation to Armageddon theological territorial drama and its invisible Palestinians. So yeah, this is from a newspaper in Israel. Haaretz. He is not a good human being. He is a terrible person. But my point is, Israel and the Palestinians can live together. This does not have to be something where you're worried for your safety if you treat each other with human dignity and respect. Pretty simple. dignity and respect for your fellow humans goes a long way. It helps fix the world. That's why I've almost come to the ideology that instead of trying to bomb people, we go to countries who deem themselves our enemies and help them establish better societies by building better infrastructure. Don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean we should leave it without being done here in America. We need better infrastructure here too. But if we go to these other nations and help them rebuild, help make them stronger nations without seeking, any real payment or anything. It's just like, look, we want a better world, and one of the things we can do is help you rebuild. But unfortunately, war is big money. Dropping bombs, firing bullets, supplying armies, that's big money. Apparently, doing things to help make for a better world, no, that's not. But that is the path we need to proceed upon making a better world. And if we have to, we nationalize these damn companies whose profits come from murder and death and destruction. And, we treat them like companies in World War II were treated. We need you to pull away from making all you're making and make some of the things to help us make a better world. Anyway, I wanted to discuss this. I'll end this episode here. As always, educate by self, think, read, study, learn. Someone tells you something you have trouble believing, ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting these links in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, later.